I was thinking 2 QA videos in the same week. Yeah, I am working on a versus for tomorrow. Some wrestling versus. Because I got a buddy coming up next week who's a Batman fan, so he can help me work my Bane fight. Booking Ronda Rousey in the WWE. I'm going to do this 2 ways. Way number 1 is if politics and money didn't matter. Way number 2 is the real world stuff. So if I was the E and I was able to get Ronda Rousey, and I'm saying we get her like now, so she has time to prepare. I don't train her in the States. I would get her ready, prepped, mentally set. And I send her to Japan. I have her work in the dojos. I have her work some of the women's wrestling there. Because I think that sort of submission grapple style with really realistic looking strikes would allow her to take her natural skill set as well as the little acting that she's done for action roles and blend that into a really effective style. Now, to get her out more in front of the crowd, assuming Kenny Omega still does the Japanese thing, I would pair her with Kenny Omega. I would have her be the valet for a little bit. She would be the elite bullet babe. That way then it allows her to figure out, 1, how you work the crowd from the outside of the ring. Because that crowd interaction, because you can do it as a manager, be like, shut up, and that way then you get a real good look at the ring up close. And it's character development and the psychology of, look what's going on in there, and the guys outside the ring, pull them aside. And it does a lot of that. I love it. Here's how you do the talking. Here's how you work the match. Here's how you work the crowd. So I would have her paired with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. So when they do things in the States, let's say Ring of Honor, have her show up for that. Have her do enough small, independent, underground things that she finds out a couple different styles, a couple different ways of working a crowd. Working an American crowd, working a Japanese crowd. Maybe have her do a Shimmer event as well. Have her do small things, but with a highly professional level so she can work, now you're working with the people who they do this and another job. Have her work with those people. She doesn't need to be, I have the E's money, because she's a multi-millionaire, she's fine. She doesn't really need anybody else's money, but you still have the E effectively without people really knowing, kind of helping to use them to mold her, and at the same time giving Ring of Honor a little bit more notoriety. Same thing as New Japan, same thing as Shimmer or Shine. It allows them to kind of build and get a little bit more recognition to a couple of other smaller groups. So that way then when they mention, these just came from New Japan, it feels more impressive when they're like, so did Ronda Rousey. So that way then she's not just like, UFC to the E, it's UFC someplace else, acquisition from there to the E. That way then you get the casual fans be like, I remember her, she was the UFC girl. And then the hardcore fans would be like, she didn't just come right over, she cut her teeth in other places around the world. But then I'd be building towards something. What I'd be building towards is next year's Royal Rumble. Because I would have Ronda Rousey work a match at Wrestle Kingdom. It's a big event. I've had her work smaller matches here and there, probably tag matches, mixed tag matches, really small events here and there. I'd have Wrestle Kingdom be her first real big, can you do it when the lights are on bright? And then, at the Royal Rumble, I would do the first ever 20-woman Royal Rumble match. That's where Ronda Rousey shows up. I would have her be a surprise entrance in that match. And if she does really well in New Japan, and she's done well, she wins with on to WrestleMania. To win one of the titles on which either show is struggling. Whichever one needs that bump in ratings. The reverse is if she doesn't do super well, you still have her show up in the Royal Rumble. She loses, But then whoever eliminates her, she works it into a feud to win a WrestleMania. So she still gets a WrestleMania match, still's in the Royal Rumble, they still get to work the payday. And if she decides, I did this for like a year and a half, it's really not my deal, you can then do a blow-off at SummerSlam, and you're done. Works well. That, of course, is if politics and money were no issue. Have her train for a couple months. I think that she has enough basic background, and she's done some fight choreography. So she knows at least enough to get her through, and I think that if she had probably about 8-9 months of training and a little bit of indie work, she could work a couple of small matches here and there. They could be tag matches or whatever, just enough to get her acclimated to 1, the travel, 2, the different styles of crowds, 3, different opponents. And a match at Wrestle Kingdom, again, she can be in a tag match, be in a singles match. It's just getting her that exposure of, okay, here's a match, 6,000 people. And in the Royal Rumble, you could be sloppy, because a lot of it's brawling. It allows you to wait to cover her in that. Then you go into WrestleMania, you've got time to have her take on some tin cans, have her take on some decent wrestlers in the ring to really help mold her and get her again slightly better. I think she's got a lot of good natural skills, but I would use Japan and their style to really, really hew her a little bit better, and then a little bit of time in the East to finish her off. It'll be fine. So, yeah. Japan, Bullet Club, Elite, Royal Rumble, first winner of that, going to WrestleMania, winning a match, becoming a champion. In about, it'll be from now to April. So we're looking about a 14-month plan. I would keep the same plan if they tried to essentially train her in the States. Here's what I don't do, though. They don't train her in the Performance Center. I don't think that works. I think the moment you put her in a place like that, everyone knows. There's too many cameras, there's too many eyes there. It's going to be way too easy for them to find out what's going on. I think instead, you have her train with someone who's a lot more low-key. I think she works with someone like Brian Kendrick. I think Brian Kendrick could really help mold her. Or, if you take her to a place like Arizona, maybe you set up Daniel Bryan with a wrestling ring to work with Ronda Rousey. I think a Daniel Bryan style works really well with her. I think you also could do a Brian Kendrick because he's got the Shawn Michaels background and he can give her a lot of the basic, here's you taking a bump, and Brian also knows how to do, Kendrick also knows how to do some good submission wrestling. And you can work her that way. And then what I would do, I would then have her show up at a takeover, the one before Survivor Series. Because currently they're doing one of those before all the big ones. Every single one before Survivor Series. So that way then people know, oh hey, there's Ronda Rousey. It builds that small amount of buzz. I then have her first official NXT match. Because by the time Survivor Series hits, she should have enough training that they can have her there. They can still do some light stuff here and there, but they don't want, people taking. They want the buzz, but not people knowing exactly how good she's doing and what she's really up to. Which would be really hard to do in the States. It's easier in Japan than it would be here. And then after Survivor Series, it's then when I start putting her a little bit into NXT. Then I have her first official match be the NXT TakeOver Royal Rumble weekend. And then I still end up having the Royal Rumble women's match debut her there. And it's the same sort of setup. If she does well in a TakeOver match, and they're like, you know what, she's good, she can work, I have her in the match, have her win. If they're like, hey, she still needs some more seasoning, have her lose, work your feud forward. Doing the opposite instead of having her just wreck people consistently in NXT. I don't want to do that, because the problem that I see is if she takes on someone like Aaliyah in NXT, Aaliyah's still really green. And Rousey's really green. It could look really bad. You ever work, say, Peyton Royce or Billie Kay? They're both good. But if you give someone who's really rough, they can't quite take somebody who can do a 2-star match and pull a 3 or 4-star match out of them. They can take someone who can do a 3 and make a 4, but they really can't take someone that green and pull them up that far. So that then leaves Ronda Rousey Asuka, which Asuka's so much better, it wouldn't be legitimate for that sort of match. I wouldn't have her work the NXT house shows because there's so many photos and so much stuff is taken. I would protect the crap out of her wrestling. I would have her first main everyone is watching match, if she's working in the East Side, be a takeover match. You know, she'd be again in a tag match, but you put her in some sort of match. She's taking on somebody that makes her look good, and that's also how you push your takeover too. You could have her show up this Fire Series takeover, you know, and she actually could either she does like an in-ring, you know, like call out of somebody, or you have somebody lose a match and then like push her. Yes, I'm taking the Bam Bam Bigelow Lawrence Taylor approach to it, because that way then they can kind of show her, you know, you want to show some training footage? You can't, because she's training for a match at TakeOver. Probably thinking, well, do you waste that first match at TakeOver? You're trying to sell tickets to the Royal Rumble TakeOver event. Why not debut her there? Because that way then people who are watching the network, they know the theme music. Just make her, oh, her debut wasn't the Royal Rumble. So? You want it to be that people are like, oh man, I think she's going to be at the Royal Rumble? I don't know. You could assume she's going to be, but like most rumor sites, they're 50-50 at best. Because then all of a sudden you have people know her music from TakeOver. The crowd knows her music from TakeOver. You have almost the same crowd from TakeOver and Royal Rumble. That music hits. Crowd explodes for it. AJ's music hit, and it was like, boom, there won't none. I was like, I don't know. Until the I Am Phenomenal happened, and then the crowd was like, ah, he's here, it's AJ freaking Styles, and then the crowd went nuts. But there was that moment of, I think half the crowd had Roman Reigns face that. Who's this? I don't know. Did I care? But it wasn't until the phrase "phenomenal" popped out, and then people were like, "Do you think that means?" And then it was AJ Styles. I mean, I did a reaction video. I was like, I heard he was going to be there, but I was like, yeah, flip a coin if it's right or not. And then it happened, and I was like, holy crap, it's happening. I say with Ronda Rousey, but you know, if no one knows the theme music, there's that awkward moment. If they know the theme music, it's music hits, crowd pops, there's Ronda Rousey. So if I was going to book her, I'd book her that way. So again, that's given her about a year. About a year to get contracts taken care of, get some basic training in, and go from there. You know, if they keep her in the States, I think that she could be ready for a Royal Rumble match in about a year. If they do the New Japan way, I think she'd be significantly better off when it comes to doing a Royal Rumble match. But either way, I would actually work her in a Royal Rumble match first. I think if you do the NXT TakeOver way, you do a pseudo Lawrence Taylor and the AJ Styles kind of surprise reveal. If you do the New Japan approach, it is a straight AJ Styles way of doing it. But I picture her probably trying to make a couple extra movies, and then maybe just retiring.